inside me. This is how legends are made.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Mission Focused Mindset. As you can see, we're doing things a little differently today. Both of us are trying to handle our busy schedules, so we are trying out a virtual podcast today. So good old Zoom is coming to the rescue. We're gonna give it a try, see how it goes, see how the audio, the light, and all that is. But either way, you guys are gonna get a good talk for you today.
Oh yeah.
So, how you doing, Ronnie?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Oh.
One thing we wanted to talk about today a little bit kind of ties in a little bit to the reason we're doing the virtual podcast today is when you're just going and got a lot of things on your plate, and this could be with training, this could be with business stuff, or just life in general when you're getting pulled in so many directions. I'm going to talk about how to know when to like take a little bit off your plate and really be able to refocus and not be pulled in so many directions and start performing optimally in all areas again. And also not only when you should do that, but maybe some suggestions of how to do that and how to prioritize what you should put more energy into, what you can just like get off your plate for a while. So do you have anything to start off with for that, Ronnie? Any examples to go to that you've had recently, whether it's been a time you've gotten run down or?
Yeah, sometimes recently, just this week with dealing with some food poisoning, that really set me back as far as training went and even work. So I think something like that, if I was still determined to stay focused and get my lifts in, I think it would set back my recovery a lot more. And then it would also take away from how I'm performing at work. So rather than just show up to work and do like kind of a shitty job and then force workouts that really aren't going to help me anyways, because I'm not even able to eat, rather than have that like set me back, I decided just to back off a little bit, let my body recover, and then slowly put a plan together. So over this next week, now that I am feeling better, I can slowly get back on track. And then once I'm on track, then I can go hard again. But that would just hopefully set me up for more success down the road instead of just grinding my wheels right now and not really going anywhere.
And what is that backing off a little bit, taking some rest? What does that look like for you? Is that sitting around doing nothing? Is that doing things a little differently? What does that look like for you?
For work, that might have been, so when I was sick and I couldn't actually go into work, maybe when I was feeling okay, I was hopping online, doing the little day-to-day things, checking stuff on the computer. Maybe I was doing programming and building out the workouts. I just wasn't in face-to-face with people. And I wasn't doing like the 16-hour days, but I was still trying to do what I could on the back end to be as productive as I could. And then as far as workouts go, for the first probably 3 or 4 days, because I wasn't even able to eat, I didn't work out at all. My workouts, if you will, it'd be a little bit of cardio, just like a light walk, trying to stay focused on hydrating and get down what I could, even if that was just a little bit of oatmeal or whatever it was, just to get something in my system. And then now that I'm feeling better, my workouts might be cut in half, or maybe I'm just doing the accessory work and nothing too heavy and nothing that will strain my body, because right now added stress is just going to set me back on the recovery. But it's just getting my body ramped back up and slowly adding more and more volume as we go until I'm back to where I need to be.
Got it. So one thing I might like to touch on a little bit, I know that yours was kind of a case of just like food poisoning a little bit, some bad food, but I wanted to maybe go down that route and give some tips that we have for when people get into this rut when it's due to being sick, and kind of some tips they can take to like get back on track as fast as possible. So some of the things you mentioned in there are to don't overwork yourself. So in your scenario where it's not like you were bedridden per se, you could still get stuff done. You didn't have to just lay around. And I think that's probably the most common when people get sick is, I think most of the time they're not fully incapacitated for 4 days, especially like young, fit people, stuff like that. It might just be they have to recognize that they need to back off and take a few days. It might be based on prior experiences where they have not taken that time off, they push through it, and then 2 weeks later they're still not recovering from workouts because they never got the time to fully rest. So some things to do when maybe you aren't feeling the greatest, you're kind of a little under the weather, I'd say, like you mentioned, hydration, as always, but especially at this time, is important.
Right.
Making sure you're really hitting all your meals, and I say in some cases you might not have the appetite to really exactly nail a certain meal plan if you're on a meal plan, but I would focus on at least getting healthy foods, nutritious foods that are going to make you feel good. You don't want to introduce like extra stressors to your body during that time that you feel like crap after a certain meal. You don't want to be inducing stuff like that. Depending on what you're sick with, make sure you're getting any extra precautionary like vitamins or supplements you may need, or medications if need be. Stay on top of that stuff ASAP, because the sooner you start catching that stuff, the less of a rut the sickness can get you in, and the faster you can get back to normal. As far as workouts, I would agree. I think depending on how sick you are, it may be good to at least take like 1 or 2 days off. That doesn't mean that you're just laying on the couch all day, but
Right.
you're not going through your normal strenuous workouts. Now, it could look like getting some light cardio. That could look like doing some mobility work, something like that. But if you are getting back to the point where you're feeling good enough that you can get an actual workout, but you're still not 100%, I think a good rule of thumb would be go ahead and get your workout, but you don't need to be going as intense as you usually would. Like, you don't need to be messing around with going to failure, stuff that's really putting extra stress on your body.
Right.
So I think those are some good tips. Do you have anything to add to that as far as when you're kind of getting run down, being a little sick? You're not necessarily fully out of it, but you're not at it 100%.
Yeah, I think you just kind of have to know, like, this goes back some of our other podcasts, what your long-term goal is. And you have to understand that when you're sick, if you're not 100% anyways, your body's having a hard time recovering, just getting back healthy and feeling good. So any workout that you do, any extra stress you're putting on it is just going to prolong, one, how long you're going to take to recover from the workout, but also it's going to prolong that sickness now, because now not only is your body trying to recover from being sick and just get back to normal, now it has to balance that and figure out how's it going to get the energy to recover your muscles and everything too. So if you do work out, you're probably better off just getting the blood flowing and getting moving, because one, that will get things going and help repair your body. But also for you mentally, it might just be good just to get a light pump and just feel like you're doing something and sweat out some of maybe that sickness. But don't push it. Just really, I'd probably just chase a pump at the very most, and then get out when you can, so that you are able to recover and use most of that energy towards getting better.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to make progress in the weight room when you're sick, and you're not
Right.
going to make progress at work or in life when you're not 100% either. So.
Right. And as that comes around then to the business side of things, and getting like your work done and not necessarily just your workouts.
Yeah.
I think some tips from my experience I'd have for that, when, depending on what you're doing for your job, if it's office work, if it's programming, if it's manual labor, I can't personally really speak to that experience too much, since I was like a kid, but I would think that would kind of fall along the lines of working out again. Maybe if you have that flexibility, try to do tasks that aren't as strenuous on you that day, or maybe, something that's just a little less energy exertion. But as far as for like mental strain and stuff like that, it can be hard to focus and really get like the creativity flowing and stuff when you're not feeling 100%. I would say, I mean, almost the same idea as the workouts. I wouldn't tackle anything that's new and super taxing mentally.
Right.
If you can avoid that, I would try and maybe catch up on organizational things or things that are maybe more of a pattern that are just like kind of tasks you got to knock your way through, kind of busy work in a way. But things that aren't going to rely on your greatest decision making or your most coherent thinking, really. I'd save that for when you are feeling 100% again, if possible, or minimize those things, prioritize them early in the day. And then when you kind of have gotten that mental exhaustion out of the way, and cruise through the rest of your day with some of the easier stuff.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Also, I think maybe so if you're homesick, you do have a lot more free time because you're not at work, and you're not tied down to the desk or whatever it is for 8 or 9 hours. So with any job, whatever it is, there's always that small tedious stuff that has to get done, but you don't always have the time to do. So maybe when you're sick, take advantage of that free time you have at home to get rid of or get that smaller stuff out of the way, so that when you're back at work, it's already taken care of and you're good to go.
Right. And if you've got a job where you can't be doing that work when you're home, say just like you're at home, you can't work, you're not working. That'd
Right.
be a good time to get a lot of rest, but also as you feel able, to do things to prepare yourself to get ahead. So when you do go back to work, like say you can do extra meal prep during that time, or just things, or you just get chores done. Again, not overdoing it, but get things done that you couldn't just on your normal busy schedule. It's a great time to help catch yourself up, so
Yep.
that when you go back to work or when you get back to your busy schedule, you're not just like straight running to the ground again. And something going along with that, if you are always getting run into the ground, that could be a sign that you just have too much on your plate, or you
Yeah.
need to change your system of efficiency, your time management, your prioritization, and because that's not going to be sustainable if every month or something you're getting sick and run down, have to take 4 or so days off.
Right.
If that's happening maybe once, twice a year, just because you are just getting after it, always extremely busy, it's a little more understandable. But if you see a regularly occurring theme, that could be time to change things.
Going along with that, say you are overwhelmed or you just have too much going on your plate. How would you personally go about either narrowing down what it is you could get rid of, or how could you go about restructuring things so that you're able to focus on what you needs to get done and put stuff on the back end for maybe later on down the road?
There's two things that come to mind with that, and I'd say two of those two things you need to consider are, one, your long-term goals, kind of like the whole concept of this thing, the mission focused mindset.
Yeah.
And this is more so like looking at things for like restructuring your whole routine.
Right.
So this would be like if you see yourself in a pattern of always getting run down month after month, I would take a step back and try and restructure your approach or your goals of what your daily, your weekly routine looks like, and what is essential for putting you on the right course towards your goals, or what is aligning with your mission. what are the essential things? What have you kind of maybe fooled yourself into thinking is essential, but if you just kind of go through the thought experiment of, okay, eliminate this, eliminate this, eliminate this, and see if that's still got you on your path towards your mission or towards your goals. It's just like kind of cutting away the junk.
Yeah.
So that is one thing, is focusing, just kind of stepping back, resetting, reflecting, which we talked about in a former podcast, and refocusing on what your mission is and what activities are supporting that mission, what activities are taken away from that mission. The other thing is, and that's more for like resetting your whole system. The other thing is that something, when you're in that situation, a lot of times something needs to happen like now. And to sort out what you need to do for that, I would say you need to, first of all, like just on a day-to-day basis, say what need, or on a, say a weekly basis, day-to-day or weekly, say what needs to get done now. What can I not put off? Like, these are the things I have to do to get through the next week. These are things I can put off and think about. That's something I would do more in the short term. So whether that looks like, you know, trying to think of a good example now. You got anything that pops to mind with that?
As
So I
far
mean,
as
a really generic example, maybe while you're thinking of this, is if you say have a pattern of going out every Friday night with your friends or something. And this is just an example. I'm not saying that friendships are not important or anything, but say you're spending from 5 o'clock to 2 a.m. going out every Friday night. And that's not something that's necessarily essential towards your goals. You know, it's something that's getting you run down, that trickles into a late start on Saturday and cramming things in Saturday night and Sunday. That could be an example of something you recognize needs to be cut out of your routine in order to work towards your goals and not get run down. It's just not sustainable, potentially. Again, that's one example. That could be anything. That could be, assuming you're hitting all your workouts, that could be going and playing pickup basketball 3 nights a week or something like that.
right.
You know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's just something that's perceived as like not healthy or something like that. It could be something that's not looked at as a bad thing per se, but it's just too much on your plate for you.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think it doesn't have to always be. I think sometimes people always want to find like the thing that doesn't fit in or doesn't align, but sometimes you could have like the perfect plan together and everything is for your work or your goal. But if it's running you down and you're not able to stay caught up, or you're always playing catch up or cramming to get it done, it might just not be the right time for whatever that activity is, and you might have to take it out now, and later down the road you could fit something back in. Because I think what's hard too is when some people are really good at structuring and planning things out, but that could be good, but it also can kind of shoot you in the foot, because if you do structure it out and you put too much on your plate, it's almost harder to let it go, because it's thought out and it's in your plan and it's structured. So you think, oh, I can't cut that out. That's a main piece. But if it's running you down and it's not 100% essential to moving you forward, you might have to just, like you said, reflect to find what exactly that is, and just cut it out for now, with the purpose or the mindset of plugging it back in later when you have more free time, or you're not as stressed out.
Yeah, and this is an example of maybe an extreme case of this, but something that I've seen in peers and such. If you literally cut everything out,
Yeah,
and just did the essentials in your routine, and something that kind of I see will create the situation sometimes, especially in people around our age, is say for a job, they move to a new city and they know no one, they have no routine there, and it's just they go to work and they come home, or they just do a few things. They don't really have a ton of obligations all weighing them down, pulling them in different directions. This isn't the case always, but I do see a lot of people that in a situation where it's just kind of like everything's cut off their plate and they're starting from scratch. They don't have all these things pulling them in different directions. I see those people sometimes really flourish or develop in the situation. I think because it is like a huge reset. I'm not saying that necessarily you always need to cut just everything out of your life and totally restart, but to an extent, you do need to go on that path and cut some things out if you just see yourself running in circles, not getting better in any area.
Yeah, I would agree. I think almost the less you have on your plate and the more narrowed minded you could be on one goal or objective, I think you can really focus in and see a lot of growth in it instead of trying to spread yourself all over the place and make everything happen at once. If you just focus in on something, get it to where you need it, and then maybe you add the next thing and do the same thing and just keep repeating it. Eventually you'll have a lot of things on your plate, but once they're all running at a high level that you want, it becomes much easier to figure out how you can balance and spread your time around.
Right. And I think that you and I are probably both guilty of this. And that is trying to do a ton of things. You got ideas flowing all the time. I mean, it's part of the reason that we made this podcast is because we've got all these great ideas we always want to talk about, and we needed a little bit of an outlet for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely see myself getting all these ideas, wanting to do all these different things. You kind of try to do everything. You want to have your hands in everything a little bit. And I think what you mentioned there is something I've also been trying to think about recently, and I've been coming across on some podcasts and some people that I follow. And that is, you tend to do a lot better and make a lot quicker progress when you focus on getting really good at one or very few certain things. Focusing on that, get excellent at it, really master it, build it up, automate it, and move on to the next thing. I think that's a good way to like build multiple streams of income per se.
Right.
Or even if it's not income related, if it's just like in life related, yes, you need to have balance, but sometimes say your relationship is in the toilet or something, and you're just trying to still be pulled in so many different directions, but you're just putting a little more effort into the relationship or something. Sometimes maybe you need to like put a lot into it, get that good, get it to a sustainable manner where it's not going to go in the toilet again, and then you move on to the next area.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Mission Focused Mindset, everybody. Stay tuned. If we are happy with the way this virtual podcast turned out, you'll probably be seeing more of these. You'll probably be seeing them getting pumped out more often, and we hope you enjoyed. So
don't forget to like and subscribe.
we're out.